Welcome to Powerful Women, Meaningful Legacies, what women can teach us about end-of-life planning. Over the next hour, we'll be joined by some incredible women, and we'll hear their stories about grief and love and how it inspired them to take matters into their own hands to create a legacy that resonates with them and their loved ones. My name is Alicia Heber, Communications Manager with Better Place Forests. I have the privilege to get to know our customers across the country, find out why they chose Better Place Forests, and share their stories in hopes to help others who are contemplating end-of-life plans for themselves or a loved one. We've now closed the chat feature, so to better answer your questions over the next hour, please use the Q&A function and we can answer your questions there. Now I'd like to pass it over to my fellow teammates to introduce themselves. Terry?
Hello, thank you, Alicia. It's wonderful to be here. My name is Terry Heath. I lead our team in Point Arena in providing a comfortable and peaceful forest experience each and every time you visit. Whether you're meeting your tree for the first time, or visiting with your friends and family, or attending a memorial ceremony, we're here for you. I've been caring for the forest since 2017 and supporting our families since then as well. And my favorite part of my job is helping families navigate those conversations with their loved ones that bring them closer together. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation today. I'll pass it over to Alethea.
Thank you, Terry. Hello, my name is Alethea Valley, and I've been with Better Place Forests for about 3 years. I am a forest steward in our founding forest in Point Arena, and it's my honor to help people find their memorial tree. And I also work closely with the ceremony team in order to support them and the families who are placing the ashes of their loved ones beneath the tree that they have selected. I'm very excited to be here with you all today. Welcome, and I can't wait to hear your stories.
Great, thank you both so much. And now I'd like to welcome some special guests. We're joined by Sarah, a young mother who chose to pre-plan her final wishes after losing her father. Sonia chose her memorial tree for herself and her husband, who has passed away. Now his ashes rest at the base of a redwood tree where someday Sonia will reunite with him. And Michelle has always had a strong connection with nature and wanted her children to experience that and to feel her presence spiritually within the forest, a place that has more meaning for her than other end-of-life options. Over the next hour, you'll hear some incredible stories about end-of-life planning, learn the importance of pre-planning your own legacy and how it benefits yourself and those you love, and discover how Better Place Forest creates more meaningful end-of-life experiences. As a matriarch of the family, women are often the ones to make end-of-life decisions for themselves, their partners, their parents, and devastatingly, sometimes their own children. When there isn't an existing plan in place, we are often the ones to make difficult decisions while grieving, under time constraints, and while prices can be at their highest. Terry experienced this when she lost both of her parents. And Terry, can you tell us more of what that was like for you?
Yes, thanks, Alicia. I came to Better Place Forests in part because of the loss I have experienced in my life. I lost both of my parents at 60 and 61, a little too early in my opinion, 2 years apart from one another from terminal cancer. During that same 2-year time span, we also lost my grandfather, who was 89. It was an incredibly rough time for my family, and that was 15 years ago. And I'm still healing from those losses. I learned so much from that time, and I am still learning as I support our families today and having those conversations that bring us closer, and can be painful, but so very important. So my mother, I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. My mother, Betty Jo, was an outstanding woman. She impacted the lives of many as a teacher and a therapist. She coincidentally focused her work in death and dying for 12 years. She helped people incorporate grief into their lives, as she truly believed that grief isn't something that we get over or get through, but rather something we incorporate because it's nothing more than the tremendous love that we feel for one another, a reflection of that love. So she was an incredibly wise woman, and she took care of us all. She was really the glue that held our family together. She planned for everything, communicated impeccably. In the last few months of her life, we were all so focused on her fight. We never wanted to give up on her. And she was the strongest of us all, so we really thought that she could pull through. And we thought that having that conversation, asking where she wanted to be placed, laid to rest, would equate to giving up a fight. So I didn't realize, nor did my brothers, that not making that decision with her would be harder than making it. So we were deep in shock, deep in grief. We moved through the motions, made all the decisions that we needed to make, like the food to serve at her celebration of life, the roses to gift her friends, all the things that we had to do, moving through the fog all the while. And where she was going to be laid to rest was a decision that we didn't make. And it was just another one of those decisions that we'd have to make without her. So we avoided it. And it remained too painful for years. So I really realized how much we needed to make that decision and how much we needed her to let us know what she had wanted, because I didn't really heal or begin my healing process until we made that decision. And today, as I help families and see families fulfilling their loved ones' final wishes in the forest, I'm filled with gratitude because I know what peace of mind comes from carrying out that vision and decision. And as I work with our families, I advocate for normalizing the end of life conversation, engaging parents in those conversations with their kids, and encouraging children to move through that uncharted territory, asking those awkward questions because I know what not deciding looks and feels like. And I want to support our families in giving that gift of planning, because I really believe my healing process was a bit stunted until I made that decision. So I heal a little bit every day as I help our families. So it is truly in my mother's honor that I do this work today, because I know she would want me to share this nugget of knowledge with the world. In my home today with my 10-year-old daughter, the conversation is very normalized. At this point, I tease her that I'll live so long that I'll outlive my hemlock tree and she'll have to choose another one for me. So having interactions like this really reminds me that we're here to live, and living is our job now. But making the decision to be part of a vital ecosystem and a conservation effort upon my passing has been an empowering decision, because it reflects how I live my life and what is important to me today. So I chose a tree with dancing branches and deep roots, since I'm make it a point to dance through my life while staying grounded. And I know my daughter knows exactly what I want, which brings me comfort. And now that we know that, we can focus on living and, more importantly, dancing. So thank you for allowing me to share. And I look forward to hearing from my fellow panelists about their story.
Thank you so much, Terry. And I thank you so much for sharing the beauty and the memories you have of your mother, Betty Jo. You mentioned something that I think will probably resonate with a lot of people in terms of when we think about end of life plans. Some people might see that as a conversation we want to shy away from, because it might feel like someone's giving up or maybe embracing death more than embracing life. But I think you really hit it on the nail as far as it really matters to children, whether you're young or an adult child, to understand the wishes of your parents, and that having that plan in place is a gift. And no, to have a plan in place and to know what will ultimately be the plan for yourself creates a real sense of peace and joy, and allows you to love and live more fully. Thank you for sharing. And Sarah, I know you've had a similar experience planning your father's final resting place after he passed. Can you tell us what that was like for you?
Sure. Thanks for having me today. We lost my dad in February of last year at the age of 66, and his death was very unexpected. My dad was charismatic and fun loving and very family focused, including just a tremendous love for his three grandsons. And so for his end of life plans, he made very few and left very little financial support to carry that work out. And so basically, what we knew was that he wanted to be cremated. We didn't know where he wanted his ashes spread. In the end, my two sisters and I were left to make hurried plans as COVID began to bear down on the world. And we ended up doing a memorial service in Arizona, knowing we really wanted to do more for him and wanted to know, or wished we knew more about his wishes. So I think we all feel a little unsettled and wish we could have done more. But my dad was the kind of person who wouldn't have wanted to place a burden on anyone. But because I don't think he was unusual in not making specific plans or funding his end of life wishes, I really wish a lot more people would understand the gift that they could give their living family by making these final plans and making them known. So that was my experience.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And once again, so many people are choosing cremation, but are left with like an unanswered question of what to do with those ashes to provide a sense of closure. And what I think that our team has found to be so beautiful about Better Place for Us is that we're able to create a sense of ritual and a beautiful place for people to have that closure, to however that looks for their family, right? But that's really important. And so I think some folks choose cremation because it resonates with maybe being maybe more simple in life, or not wanting to have a big impact or a big burden. And cremation can certainly provide that. But the family certainly wants to be able to honor you and have that ceremonious sort of closure. So thank you for sharing, Sarah. And Michelle, I know that seeing your friend pass away when there wasn't any plans in place for him was a big catalyst for you to start your pre-planning. And can you tell us what that was like?
Yeah, thank you. Along with the other panelists, I'm really happy to be here this morning to share this story. I had a really good friend that was a part of a village of friends, all single people, in the Bay Area. And we did holidays together, and he and I were movie buffs and bantered back and forth about movies and trying to figure out who was better at recall for some of the old movies, even the ones when we weren't even born. And he was died suddenly, and we found out about it, and we tried to figure out what we could do to ensure that he would have a good passing, and we couldn't find any documentation. We weren't able to figure out who the relatives were, whether near or far. We couldn't claim the body from the coroner because there was no, again, information or anything tying us to him. We finally got to all of that, took about 30 days. And so that meant that someone who we loved ended up at the county coroner, no settlement of his life. And then when we finally did do all of that, because of the lack of funds and the lack of preparation, it wasn't as great as we would have loved it to be. We all did do our best, but it really spoke to me the need to plan and to share your plan with people that you trust and love, so that when that time comes, whenever, because again, we weren't planning on this person not being with us that following Thanksgiving or Christmas, but he was. And to create a good passing means being prepared and preparing the people around you so they can help to make that happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it reminds me of how, family is not just the family you're born into. You choose a lot of your family, and you choose your friends, and your community that you surround with yourself with can really become the family and the people you trust and love the most in life. And that can be complicated after death if there's not a plan in place. And so I'm so sorry to hear about your loss, but I appreciate you sharing this because I think it'll be helpful for others. While many of us have gone through the hardships of making someone else's end of life plans, it's something we rarely talk about. And I have a question for those of you at home, and it'll pop up on your screen in just a moment. All right. So when we're grieving, it's likely one of the worst times to be making important decisions for a loved one. Trying to navigate what to do can be an incredibly painful experience, and one that leads many to be proactive for their own plans so they don't place that burden on someone else. And Sonia, I know you had taken the time to pre-plan with your husband before he passed away. Can you let me know how that feels that you two will be reunited there someday?
It feels very beautiful, very peaceful. There's a stillness in it in the midst of the chaos of the world and the grieving process that goes on. And it's just a wonderful feeling to know that I will be reunited somehow whatever that means, with ashes being spread at the same tree and being taken up into the canopy where I believe John is now, or even further out into the universe. I don't have a rocket ship. I don't have the funds to do that, but this is the closest I think we get to being part of that circle of life that continues on beyond us, nurtures the community of trees and the people who come and visit. And it's just a really wonderful feeling.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Sonia. It sounds like you find so much comfort in the forest, and I know that being able to make that decision with John and was so comforting for you. And I know that he probably felt comfort in knowing that he would reunite with you in the forest.
He was able to see the forest because of your online work. It is the original forest where he is. And so it was really at the beginning of the conservation work that you're doing for the memorial forest. And everything happened so quickly at the end when he was in hospice that I was able to ask him if he believed in God. And he said, of course, all you have to do is look out at a tree. And that kind of prompted me then to bring that to him as he was lying in bed, and showing him and asking him. We had already decided that we would both be cremated at the end, and deciding where that final resting place would be was, you made it easy for us to make that decision. And everything after that was so beautifully handled and so easy. And I really thank the forest and the foresters for that.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
It warms my heart to know that the forest has brought some ease to such a difficult transition. And thank you so much for sharing your stories. We've learned so much about end of life planning through stories such as the ones we heard today, stories we hear in the forest, and we've done a bunch of surveys nationwide. And we've learned that the majority of people don't have their end of life plans set into place. And that is, it can feel scary, it can feel daunting and overwhelming, but nonetheless, it's a conversation that needs to be had. And it can be a very difficult conversation to have, especially if you have a partner who maybe doesn't want to have it with you, or children or loved ones who just, you care about their thoughts, but they don't want to have it with you. So it's an important decision to really just make for yourself. And I can tell you from firsthand experience that in the forest, when people check that box and that plan is made and done, there's a sigh of relief, and they describe it as peaceful and positive and productive. And, whereas not making a plan can be very expensive and burdensome, and just leaves your family just wondering what your wishes were. I've seen that in the forest also, where people are holding loved ones' remains, and they're confident that that's what they would want for themselves, but they're not confident that that's what their loved ones would have wanted. So it leaves you with a feel of unease to have to do that for someone that you love and care about. And I have a question for those of you at home. I'm curious about what's making you think about your end of life questions right now, your end of life plans. And I'd like to go ahead and open up the chat. And I'm hoping you'll comment in the chat also, and just share your thoughts and your current inspiration as to why this is on your mind right now. We had some comments. What documents and steps are helpful? What are the options for ashes? There's many options for ashes. This option is wonderful because it's also providing a solution. You're also, setting off the carbon imprint or carbon footprint with your contribution through One Tree Planted, which is wonderful. Um, COVID, yeah, we hear that a lot in the forest. It's definitely bringing that to top of mind. Everyone's really wanting to make sure that their plans are in place, and should anything happen, and hopefully it won't, but you never do know. And let's see, we've got Dawn. I believe everyone deserves a beautiful passing, and this has given an idea for me. Absolutely. We all deserve to create our own beautiful end of life story that really resonates with how we lived while we were on the planet, and leave a legacy that's meaningful for us. And let's see, I'll do one more. Yeah, Rona says, I don't want to have to make all these decisions during an emergency or leaving it to someone else. And that's just the basic bare bones of it, is that you never can tell when your time will come, and having this all said and done gives you a peace of mind, and also is such a gift for your loved ones. And Michelle, I'd like to turn the conversation to you and ask you if you have any advice you'd like to share for people who are just beginning to make their end of life plans.
Oh, wow. That's such a great question, because in my career, I have the opportunity to work with families that are at the end of life with their loved ones. I work in senior care and gerontology. And over the last 24 years, I've seen thousands of people not prepared for the end of life. And when they have to choose and make choices and then deal with the grief, and then pull family members together who maybe are in denial and still have not had that beautiful conversation about what is it? What is the desire of the loved one, the elder, or the person that is living with some sort of disease that we have a trajectory that we kind of know that the end is near. And for me, it was about, one, giving a gift to my children. I have two adult children that I felt they needed to be lifted of the burden of worrying about that part of the future of our life together. They wouldn't have to worry whether or not I wanted to be cremated. They wouldn't have to worry about where those ashes would go, that they wouldn't have to have them on a mantle in their house, because I know neither one of them would have liked that. Even though they would have done it, they wouldn't have liked it. So I really was thinking about also, how can I be in their lives going into the future? We are hikers and campers, and always have loved the forest. As Sonia said, we just love the forest, love trees. And when Better Place Forest was presented to me, I thought, oh man, this is exactly what I want to do. This is exactly what I've been thinking about. And got to choose a beautiful redwood tree and then share with my children that I had done this. And yes, there was silence and a little nervousness on their part, because they were worried, oh, you're going to buy a tree and you're prepared for your death. Does that mean that you're dying? And it's like, no, there's no special button that you push for that. It's just preparing so that you don't have to worry, and that there's a place that the question is so wonderful, because I didn't want to be in a cemetery. I have to be honest. There was something about cemeteries, and my parents are at a cemetery, that made me feel like, wow, that really is the end. And I do not look at death and dying as the end. And so I wanted a place where my life could continue. The children wouldn't have to make plans for it, and they could just come and visit with me and bring my grandkids, and yeah. So that's why.
All beautiful reasons, and I really resonate with that. As a mother, you just want to protect and comfort your children, through eternity, and just provide that that knowledge that you'll always be with them. And I hope that you get those grandchildren, and I hope you get to enjoy the shade of the tree together as a family long before your ashes are placed beneath it.
Soon, very soon.
And Sarah, do you have any thoughts to share about how to navigate the pre-planning process?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice is just do it. Our time on earth isn't guaranteed. And so my husband and I are in our 30s. And so making end of life plans isn't really something that a lot of our friends are doing or talking about right now. And so while we had some preliminary conversations, my experience with my dad really sort of forced us to action. It propelled us to make a decision. And so in addition to just getting down, having those conversations and making a decision, I'd really say find an option that speaks to you. um, you know like Michelle, my family is constantly out in nature. We hike and camp and kayak, and we try very hard to conserve and be environmentally conscious. And so we knew traditional plans for us weren't what we would be doing. And my husband actually saw an ad for Better Place Forests on social media. And when we found out that a forest in Flagstaff was being planned, we knew it was absolutely perfect for us, because um, Flagstaff is where our story started as a couple. We both went to school there. We've returned there over the years frequently, and live in Phoenix, so it's nice and close. And so it's always been a special place for us, and we knew that that's where we wanted to spend forever.
I love that. I love that you found a area that really resembles where you guys met and your history, and you can share stories of how you came together and found each other in the forest together. And I think just do it is amazing and simple advice. It's not as painful as you would think it is, and it's just such a gift to enjoy all together. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
And Sonia, I know that your story is a little different, that you were looking for a tree for your husband as he was passing, and that must have been very difficult. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, as I mentioned before, when we had the conversation about afterlife, and John mentioned that, all you have to do is look at a tree. We had always been attracted to the redwoods, and living in Sonoma County, there's so many places to enjoy redwoods. And then traveling up the coast, there are just so many places to visit and be in the midst of even mother trees. And it's always amazed me how a mother tree and then her children feed the forest and bring to life what otherwise might not live. And it's, again, the circle of life was just so appealing. It made the passing easier. It was a difficult last few weeks when John was on hospice, but he was alert, and he knew he didn't want to be on a shelf, like Michelle said. Who wants to be on a mantle with people walking by? And the forest provides such a beautiful place. I've had a chance to visit twice now. One of those times choosing actually 3 times, twice choosing and then revising what tree it would be, and then the spreading of John's ashes. And it was such a beautiful ceremony. It was perfect. I couldn't have asked for anything more, nor could have John, I'm sure. He was so happy out in nature. He was a complicated guy, loved nature, very funny, very intelligent. But he also had a very shy and private side. And I like to think that the forest and the community of people who would choose to be there in the end share those same human qualities. We're all very complicated creatures. I think that the more you know about a forest, the better you understand the complexities of our own life here on this planet. And I would just highly recommend that people learn more about forests and the work that you all are doing to care for those trees and our environment. And I'm so glad, Alethea, that you mentioned the planting of more trees, that this conservation of each forest allows the group to plant more trees. And we are in great need of more forests. Can never replace them, but we can continue them. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I agree. The forests are such an intricate web of, this dynamic life, and anything and everything that we can do to preserve it for our future grandchildren and their children it's just such a beautiful thing. And I'm so happy that you found your tree. And I don't know if you know this, my tree is right near yours.
I do know that.
so
You're
we're
driving me around the forest in that little ATV.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
That's why I have the helmet on in the photo that you're showing.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for sharing your advice about pre-planning. It really does, as you guys have mentioned, just allow you to create a legacy and your end of life story that really reflects who you are and how you lived and how you care for the people that are in your lives. And we are so proud to offer an alternative, beautiful, affordable end of life option. And we're excited to tell you a little bit more about our memorial forests.
Thank you, Alethea. At Better Place Forest, we've been honored to serve thousands of customers and families, and we support families in their end-of-life arrangements by conserving and protecting natural areas. By choosing Better Place Forests, you're choosing to leave a meaningful legacy for the planet and the people you love. And we have forests across the country, and we're growing. Can you guess how many forests we currently have? We'll have a poll question pop up in just a moment. Great. All right. Better Place Forest has 6 memorial forests across the country, with more expected to open throughout the year. Our current forest locations are in Point Arena in Santa Cruz, California, Flagstaff, Arizona, Litchfield Hills, Connecticut, St. Croix Valley, Minnesota, the Berkshires in Massachusetts, and soon Rock River, Illinois. We're proud to protect forest land that could have otherwise have been developed, and we maintain and support the health of the forest to create a beautiful place for you and your loved ones to experience and enjoy for generations to come. Additionally, a memorial tree is half the cost of traditional burial, which can cost upwards of $15,000 for just one person. What's incredibly unique to Better Place Forest is the ability for families to stay together forever. Unlike other options, the base of your tree can be the place for your family. You have the option to allow your loved ones to join you at the base of your tree to create a living family tree. So it's far more affordable for families, friends, and even your pets to stay together forever in a beautiful place. As mothers, partners, and women, pre-planning our end-of-life decisions allows us to show up more fully for those we love. And each of you have chosen your memorial tree with Better Place Forest as your eventual final resting place. And can you tell us what having your tree makes you feel in your day-to-day life when you think of your tree? What does that make you feel? Alethea?
Well, I feel pretty darn good about it. I love my tree, and I'm fortunate that I get to walk past it frequently. I have a spot that was designated for me, purchased by my family in my hometown. But I got to thinking about how it wouldn't have room to accommodate my partner or my daughter or grandchildren or pets. And so when I began working with Better Place Forest, I selected a tree. And the reason I chose this tree is because it reminds me of a tree that lived in my grandparents' backyard near a creek that I spent many days playing and climbing. It was a little bit younger than this one, but and my dog has so much fun. You can see her here. That's Opal, romping around the forest. And the most important part to me is that I've been able to sit beneath this tree and have the conversation with my daughter and envision a celebration of life taking place in this area. It's on a beautiful hilltop. It's got lots of sun and birds nearby. And I can just really take comfort in the fact that even after I'm gone, the memories that I've created with my daughter there will live on and give her some sort of comfort. And I just really appreciate the fact that they'll never, the room won't run out beneath my tree. So this in essence can become my family tree and the legacy that I leave.
Thank you for sharing that, Alethea. And it's true, it's our pets are equally as important in our families. And so it's beautiful that we can provide that same sort of closure and peace around our fur babies and have the opportunity to, yeah, create those positive memories before a ceremony even takes place. Sarah, can you tell us about your tree in Flagstaff?
Yeah, so we purchased ours after a virtual tour. And when we had gotten off the phone from making that purchase, my husband and I looked at each other and just like let out a sigh. It was just such a feeling of peace and relief, knowing that those plans were made. Just a huge weight lifted off our shoulders, and all that uncertainty is gone. So, and talking with my panelists here yesterday, it's not only a gift to your loved ones, it's a gift to yourself. And that truly felt that way. And my son, he's only 4 now, but he knows, mommy and daddy have a special place in the forest in an area that we love. And he'll always be able to visit us there and could potentially spend forever there with us if he chooses. And, we look forward to making some memories ahead of any kind of, life event that brings us there for sadder times. So we really just are relieved knowing he won't have to make the decisions we had to make for our parents, and we get to have those happy memories together.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sonia, you've been able to speak so eloquently about what this experience has been like, and perhaps maybe we showed it earlier. You shared a beautiful portrait or a painting that what you had commissioned of your tree. Maybe you could explain what that means to you and how being able to reflect on that picture, or just how you look at trees in general now, and how you were able to connect with John that way.
Thank you for allowing me to be part of this panel and speaking John's name. It's very important that we can relive moments of our loved ones like this. Yes, I had a painting commissioned by a local artist who, that's all she does is paint trees. So she painted my redwood and it's hanging on the wall to my right. You can't see it, but it's a memory every day of that tree in Point Arena. And it was important for me to choose a redwood. It's so iconic of California. And I think the coastal redwood is even different from the ones that you might see in urban California. I mean, redwoods are so ubiquitous that you see, all kinds, but the coastal redwood is, I think, a very special tree. Our tree is very tall and straight and stands in the sun. And I think of John, and because he was that kind of person, that kind of man, tall, over 6 feet, straight, lean, loved the sun and loved California. So when I look at the painting of my tree, I can see it in my mind's eye, and in my heart, it's just really here. John is here, the tree is here, and it brings me great peace.
Thank you. Michelle, would you share kind of what's special about your tree and what you think when you reflect on that?
Well, first, Sonia, thank you so much for sharing John with us, and we're honored, and your love for your tree. I too have the same love for trees, and I chose my tree virtually like Sarah. And when we looked at different trees, and then all of a sudden I saw this beautiful redwood tree, and for me, a little bit more childlike, I saw the Harry Potter hat in the trunk of the tree. And as I said before, my son is older, he's a millennial, and we read the Harry Potter series together. So Harry Potter is a connection again between my my children and the tree. And I've promised my son, I said, when you first see it, I want you to look for the hat. And, you know, of course, he rolled his eyes and said, whatever, Mom. But hopefully that moment, even that moment, will be remembered when he visits the tree, that we're creating moments of joy around my future passing. And I just love my tree for the very same reasons that both Sarah and Sonia love their tree. It's straight up. I saw that the canopy, I could see a cloud the day that I purchased it, that it was right near the canopy. And I thought, wow, I'll be able to be with the heavens and all of that. And then this wonderful little pathway where I could hear water. And I am just so excited, not about dying. I'm not trying to do that anytime in the near future. But what I'm excited about is when that time comes, that the energy that I think that I bring to my day-to-day living right now will continue to happen in this incredible, incredible place in nature, and live on forever, kinda. And that just means a lot to me and to the legacy of my family. And yeah, I can't wait to go see it. I haven't touched my tree yet. So the day that I come, I'm probably you're gonna have to pull my arms from around it, because I'm very excited. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're so excited to have you come to the forest and spend that time with your tree. And like we've said, yeah, it's the opportunity to create those memories that really will be so valuable as we're approaching the process of dying, if we're able to do it later in our years, or to have your children to be able to reflect on that. And I love that the tree itself has a specific memory and a connection there. So when he looks at that tree, he'll smile and think of you. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate everyone taking the time to learn more about Better Place Forest, to help us celebrate and wrap up the awesome month of Women's History Month. And I'm so thankful to have been blessed with the presence of these amazing women and sharing their stories about life, love, grief, and all that it means to live fully and to have a plan in place. If we didn't get to answer your questions today, you can send them over to hello@Better Place Forest, and we'll reach out to provide more information for you. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to supporting you and your family. Thanks so much, and have a great day.